In my imagination with the fencing, I was, was going to learn the same things the monks did. And Fencing Bear was about that. It's Fencing Bear at prayer because it's the fencing, the martial training, the spiritual discipline to understand the kinds of metaphors that the monks were using. They're in the Psalms, all of the military imagery of fighting your enemies. They're spiritual as well as physical. And that fencing, I thought, would be this training for dealing with all of these difficult emotions. The thing is, it really did. I mean, it did help. I think, of all of the things of, the online world and the culture wars and things like that, I do know that without all of that fencing training, I could not have done it. It helped me understand how to stay calm when people were trying to hit me emotionally or intellectually. But the interesting thing about being in a fencing bout is, one, you put a mask on, so you're not looking at each other face to face. The masks you can't really see through them, so you're now an oval, right? You've kind of masked up, and so you're reading each other's bodies and movements and things like that.
You're being hit by an anon.
Yes,
almost.
You're being hit by an anon. Exactly. And the thing is, what's interesting for women about it, one, the thing that you cannot believe when you get on and off the strip is when you're off the strip, you're all friendly and everything, and and I got thrown by this so many times when I was a beginner. You get on the strip and your opponent smiles at you, he's probably about to beat the daylights out of you. You're disarmed, right? It's like, oh, but she was nice. That's great. It's going to be a fun battle. No. Odin, Dr. RFB was a fencer. Very interesting. Yes, I am a veteran level fencer. I had a B rating, the USFA B rating, until COVID hit, and I didn't get to fence for a few years. So now I'm a C. C22 is my current rating. I fence foil. You got all this emotion of this person coming at you. You must stay absolutely calm and not let all of the crowded thoughts that you have about what should be happening get in your way, because the should is the deadliest thought you have. You should have been nice to me. I was your friend. Oh, yeah? Because in the moment of the bout takes over, which is, I'm going to do this action. You need to, do the right action is. If you do the wrong action and I hit you, that's my point. I've been trying in the course of the last week or so to explain this to people who aren't fencers. That I can look at the online engagements that we have and see, okay, that was a feint, that you missed a parry, that you didn't, you took the bait there and you responded. It's about, right? And for mostly what I see, the men are actually just bouting, right? There's a move. I'll make this joke and you respond or you don't. I'll make this other. If the women get involved in the men's bout, it's a disaster, right? Please don't do it, ladies. Stay away. But for women, we also have to train to deal with all of the emotions that come up when this person who was smiling at you 10 seconds ago before you put your masks down, on guard, ready, fence, and she's coming at you like a freight train, and you're going, wow, what just happened? That the fencing was actually very, very useful for me in all of these internet engagements, because I could tell the difference between something that was actually a threat and something that was just exciting my fear and my emotions and my need to get angry and all of that. It's like, and that's what the desert fathers are trying to learn to do with the 8 deadly thoughts and the logismoi and the internet demons. They're trying to learn how to stay calm in the midst of this chaos of attack. And St. Anthony did really well, right? After a while, he's able to recognize the difference between his response in emotion and terror and fear for his life, or the deadly thought of gluttony for monks is, I might die, right? Because I'm fasting so much. The deadly thought for a fencer of pride is, I should win this bout because I've been practicing and I was seated ahead of her and she's a beginner and I know how to do this, and bammo, you just lost and you're crying on the end of the strip because you shouldn't have. Those are the kinds of thoughts I went into fencing to learn, I realized in retrospect, to deal with, so that in fact, when on the internet all of this stuff was flying at me, I knew how to pay attention to the bout that was actually happening rather than the flood of emotions that was coming at me of, you're hated, these people don't like you, they're going to say mean things about you. And I'm like, that's waving your blade around like this, and I know that's not an attack. Yes. And almost everything that goes on in most bouting is people, this is a standard thing that beginning fencers use. They think, if I spin my blade around a lot, they'll not know where I'm coming from. Oh no, I saw you. I can see exactly when that flailing around turns into your intention, because I've been practicing enough. I can tell the moment you make the decision. And there was this this great moment when I was, again, a beginner, and one of the veteran men was fencing against me in a tournament, and I said afterwards, like, Joe, I felt like you knew what I was going to do before I did. And he's like, yeah. He did. He could tell. He could hit me before I even understood that I was trying to attack him.
Yeah.
It was so, and that's what you can say, that
the micro movements.
The micro movements that I wasn't even aware of, he was already dealing with.
That's so
it's
cool.
Very cool. It's very, very cool. And so, I mean, you see that. It's like when I went to my very first national tournament back when I was not even old enough to be a veteran yet. So it was like still just only fencing against the teenagers. And I was watching the pool bout, and this, you know, the woman who won, the girl who won, I couldn't figure out why, because she didn't seem to do anything except win every bout.
Again, going back to the women on the internet problem, but this is the struggle. If you're in the headspace of keeping things comfortable to prevent conflict in order to have your social environment harmonious as possible, these kinds of conflicts, they don't follow rules. You were expecting the rule to be that you would have given an indication of what you were doing. Your opponent didn't need it. He'd already, you know, there's no formulaic way of winning these things. Or this woman that comes in who's a newbie starts winning bouts, no one knows why.
Everybody hates her. Because if she does that, she's coming and disrupted the entire hierarchy. So the way I see it, there's two different levels, right? There's the should of what social situation you're in to start with. What I learned I had to really deal with a lot. I had to learn to deal with, she was really nice to me and she just beat me 5-0. It felt mean. And then I had one of my coach friends telling me, you know, you don't like being mean, so you don't actually like beating them. And I'm like, kind of right. I was okay, you know, if I was the better fencer, that was okay for me to win. And it's okay for me to win as an underdog. Or so, you know, it's like these social concerns just clouded everything. But yes. What you're describing is like the reason Joe could see me what I was about to do. That's the kind of verbal wit that Milo has that is devastating. And you know, it's the rhetorical responses that Owen uses, that Vox talks about, saying he just like, if he's gonna, and this is okay, this we're getting out to the actual demonic moment. Someone like Milo or someone like Owen will do to you on the internet what Joe did to me in that bout, right? That one, Joe was looking for all my weaknesses because I was like clumsy and he didn't even, I was so blindingly obvious that there were all these weaknesses, but he's looking for the things that I'm making mistakes on or anxious about or trying to protect myself from, or it's like, who knows? Like, I don't even consciously think about all these things when I go, maybe I do. If I'm going into a bout with someone, I'm like, okay, she moves like that. Okay. She's anxious about that. Okay. If I misread it and I let her hit me, I'm like, you know, cause my autism clearly is going nuts because I'm not reading this situation right. What Milo or Owen can do is look at you and in less time than you realize he's even considered you, figure out every single one of your tells. They'll both do it, right? Because they both have this verbal ability. They will then proceed to destroy you in the nicest possible way. And I've certainly seen Milo do that with, it's like it's like one podcast I remember, they'd been bantering about, I think before, I don't know all this, some of it I'm assuming that I'm reading correctly because I'm a fencer. They've been bantering about something about feet and shoes and stuff like that. Well, as soon as they got on camera, Milo was teasing this guy about his foot fetish. It's supposed to be with them talking about t-shirts. It's about, right? It's like when Milo says they're bouting, they're, you know, exchanging hazing and stuff like that. It's, I see this thing that you're going to be anxious about. That's my target.
What is it? The red sheet that the bullfighters are waving.
Well, it's the matador. The matador is Milo, right? Saying, I know that you're going to respond to this. Doo-doo. Right? And there you go. And you rush at it. And he knows exactly where you're going to come. And he goes, doop, right? And moves away. And you are turning into the bull because this little bitty character is tricking you constantly. And then and obviously if you get mad, you're doomed because then you can't make your responses with enough precision that he can't just take over.
Yeah, so this again, it's conflict, but it's not conflict for a reputational destruction necessarily. So I think this is why women have a hard time with this. Women don't talk to each other like this. We don't haze. Women don't haze. We're insulting or we're demeaning, but we don't haze each other. We can't build our social worlds like this. Men have to haze to build their social worlds. So the languages are different. But that means the demons we're fighting in these spaces are different also. The way we're fighting them is different.
Bear Armstrong is saying, what are the 8 deadly thoughts? It's the same as the 7 deadly sins, only with one missing. So here, according to Vragrius Ponticus, are the names of the 8 deadly thoughts. Gluttony, or the concern that one is doing damage to one's body by pursuing the ascetic life. Impurity, or lusting after others' bodies. Avarice, or the anxiety to care for one's old age, particularly shame at the thought of accepting aid from others. Sadness, or feeling sorry for oneself and the denial of one's desires. Anger, or wrath at the thought of those who've done one some injury. Acadia, or distraction and sloth, along with desire to abandon the ascetic life. Vainglory, or the desire to show off one's struggles and be commended by others. These guys are living in caves and weaving mats, and they're still worried about showing off, right? And pride, or the conviction that one may be virtuous by one's own efforts without the help of God. So gluttony, impurity, avarice, anger, sadness, Acadia, vainglory, pride. And like I said, Gregory the Great transforms these into what the West knows as the 7 deadly sins, and so they're close. But these are the demons of the temptation. And for the most part in the Christian traditions, recognize both men and women suffer from these same temptations, but maybe we have different characters of temptation.
Yeah, the characters are different. Like a big one for the women online is, be nice and be feminine. Right now, a lot of the response and reaction to feminism in the West has been for men to say, oh no, women, stop talking or behave in a certain way or you're not very feminine. This just plays on the fear of, or it can just play on the fear of women being terrified to look bad. Therefore, they'll stop telling the truth if it's going to cost them their social status. So it ends up feeding into a kind of pridefulness or, a desire to be liked above truth-telling. So the battles that men and women are having against the demons look completely different sometimes. My friend knew one of the fighters, and so we said hi to him before the fight, and he was a really lovely guy. And the guy who took me to the fight, he said, I'll notice a difference in him when he comes back out. I was like, okay. They call for the round to start, and out walks a completely different person.
Yeah.
Completely different person. It was like he was possessed, and not necessarily in a bad way. It wasn't like, oh, you're possessed by demons. He was in a completely different mode. He was there for war. Magnificently shocking experience of having met this gentle giant of a man previously, and then to see what he's like when he was coming out to do battle with another man. So good. So I don't know why women want to stop this process. Sit there and watch them beat each other until they're bleeding and then go and baby them afterwards.
Yeah.
But they need it. Just the feeling of watching them having the sensation of what it is to be a man who's not inhibited and who's able to grow in this way and to be in pain. It was wonderful. I don't know why you would stop them from this experience.
When you're describing the way he looked when he was coming out and focused, women swoon over that level of focus. That is like that's so intense. And then they get in the way of it, right? Because of course what they want, this is the Samson and Delilah image, right? What they want is, she's like trying to betray him and stuff, like, but they want that attention focused on them. We convinced you that it's both good and bad, and you need to train here in the desert so that we can become like St. Catherine and know how to outwit the philosophers. You do need to train, and you can do it as ladies, but we need to figure out different training regimens for the men and the women. Although our main advice tonight is, ladies, if the men are bouting, stay out of it.
Never, ever, 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 ever get in the middle of a bout between two men.
Just don't. Ever. Just don't. We're here to tell you, don't. Have we said it again? Don't.
Don't do it.
However much it's your husband, however much you're tempted, really just let them bout.
Let them bleed.
Let them bleed. And then they'll be friends again, like dogs.
It sounds mean when I say it.
I know.
I can hear myself, and I know how mean it sounds. It sounds cruel, but it's not. It's good. You have to let them bleed. Then they grow.
And we need to learn as ladies how to deal with all those emotions when we get cut off. And they don't smile at us in the way that we wish they would. We feed on attention, you know.